recording. I already forgot what I said. And now it
It
should
was-
be recording.
It was really smart though.
View. I'll never remember what it was. Now that we're recording, what was
Well,
that?
it was just
But
about
I
being,
love this.
it was about being free to be yourself instead of trying to change who you are to mold into whatever other people expect from you, and how human design can help you kind of discover who you are. And like that's exactly what I have experienced through human design, and why it has become an obsession for me is because like I've never heard myself described in such a fashion. Like I've always been interested in astrology and horoscopes and all that stuff, but like this was like I'm reading about me on this paper, and it's who I've always wanted, who I've always naturally been, but tried to resist because I thought it was wrong. Like being a projector.
Exactly. And that's what I love. So, oh yeah.
I froze. But yeah, being a projector and knowing that like I'm not meant to work a 9 to 5 consistently over and over and over again. Like projectors are only supposed to work 3 to 4 hours of worth of effort in a day. And like you can do a full 8-hour day, but then you need a day to recover from that. Otherwise, if you continue to push yourself, it's going to be not good for your health. And so many of us end up in burnout because we're not meant to be working all the time and doing. So, I mean, that just goes back to listening to your body, but we've been so disconnected from that. And this was sort of like permission to like rest, honestly.
No kidding. Oh my gosh, we could spin off just on that topic alone
Yeah.
with busyness, right? But
Yeah.
like even on this whole human design concept, what we were just saying before we started recording was just like we live in this world where we are constantly told we are not good enough, that we need to change ourselves. We have to change how we look, how we dress, what we do, who we're with. We're so obsessed with, proving ourselves to achievements and, calling success, based off of how many things we do, how busy we are, how much money we make. And we need to change, who we are so that more people like us. And like, what if we just loved ourselves exactly as we are and learned how to accept, just who we are naturally and learned how to work with it instead of working against it. And I love, that human design, right? It like calls out all of these things about ourselves that, right, we once thought like, oh, these are exactly the things that I thought I needed to change about me. But now that I see this and realize like, this is just who I naturally am.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people are too, that
Yeah.
are, like say generators or projectors, reflectors, like I'm not the only one that operates this way.
Yeah.
So it like calls out your uniqueness, but also reminds you at the same time, like, oh, but I'm not the only one. Like of all the humans on the earth, like we
Right.
can all fit into these categories and we operate in these different ways. And that's a beautiful thing. Maybe I
Right.
don't need to change anything about how I am. Perhaps I can focus more on just embracing and accepting these parts of myself
Right.
and being proud of like these unique traits that I possess.
Yeah.
That they're unique, that they're perfect, that they're special, and they're not a problem or, like some error in our design that needs to be corrected,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's powerful stuff, like learning about yourself and like accepting who you are. Cause that was honestly, when I started learning about myself as a projector, I was like, this is the first time I like stopped criticizing myself for all of the things that I wasn't doing right. Like,
exactly.
And then it was like, I have to share this with people, because if this was so eye-opening for me and it became so much easier to not criticize myself, like imagine where we would be if people criticize themselves 5% less even. Like
seriously, and even just that 5%, that would make a huge impact. Because let's think about it. Like in an average day, the mind is usually constantly running on autopilot. Even if we're focused on something else, it's playing in the background. And how often, I mean, gosh, of the thousands of thoughts that we have in a day, how many of them are like just on autopilot criticism of ourselves?
Most of them.
Like, oh shoot, that was stupid. Why did I do that? Or even, criticizing ourselves especially, but also criticizing everything else around us. My goodness. And just imagine by 5%, think of how many thoughts that actually would be in just
Mhm.
one day.
Right.
5% of our thoughts to eliminate that criticism. And
Right.
think like every criticizing, like judgmental thought that we think about ourselves is like slowly like tearing down our confidence, right? Just one little thought at a time. And they happen so automatically that like we think it's normal.
Yeah.
We're so used to it that
Yeah.
we're just used to being beaten down
Mhm.
every day. Where don't you notice there's some days by the end of the day you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. It could just be from our own thoughts
Yeah.
in our head running us ragged.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
that
mean,
5% would make a
even for
huge
me, like
impact.
right now, I asked you this morning if you wanted to do a live and it didn't work out, but I was completely ready to show up just like this. And now that we've started recording, I look at myself, I'm like, oh, I didn't do my makeup. I didn't brush my hair the right way. Like, why are we doing this? Like, none of that matters. But like, I'm
Oh, we
calling
get so
myself out
tripped up
here because
over.
it's so natural to like fall back in those patterns that this doesn't really matter. The point is, I want to show up and have this conversation with Krista, and maybe something I say or we say will inspire somebody to do something different in their lives that helps them, right? Like, that's the point of what we're doing.
Exactly.
Doesn't have
And
anything to
perhaps
do with whether
today,
I put eyeliner on today.
right? And on Zoom, like, who's really going to notice that?
Right.
Who's going to notice? Oh my gosh, Nicole,
Yeah.
she's not wearing
Yeah.
eyeliner.
Yep.
Those eyes are not
Can't trust
designed
her.
correctly, according to what the media is telling us on the commercials every day. Really? Right. Yeah,
Yep.
I can't trust this woman. I was just thinking
Nope.
too, the same thing, like, oh, is my hair still wet?
Yeah.
At least I showered today. Like,
Yeah.
geez,
Yeah. I didn't even make
what's
it
the
that far
matter?
yet. I just
Yeah,
put a ponytail.
right?
Yeah. Like,
And yet
okay,
we
it's
feel
not
like,
about me.
again, in the society, and it's not about how we look, right, to the rest of the world. Again, in the society that paints this picture that we must be so perfectly polished and put together before we put ourselves out there, God forbid, that might discredit you know, our authority, or like, what do they know? Like, if she
Yeah.
doesn't look perfectly polished and clean and like wearing her, nice pantsuit and all of the things, then like I must not be able to trust, like she must not really be a professional. I
Right.
must not be able to trust the words coming out of her mouth. Like, it's about what we've got going on the inside,
Yeah.
what we project, and how we appear to the external world. We've gotten so caught up in that it's like we're tripping over that and we're forgetting about the divine, knowledge and wisdom that's held within. Like the light
Mhm.
that's shining within, we've been dulling it try, trying to cover it up and put all these masks, put on all the makeup and all of the nice clothes, the outfits, all of this external stuff, and like shifting and shaping, and hiding the truth, like that's shining from within. And
Mhm.
that's all that really matters. What's on the inside is what matters. It doesn't matter what you put on, the
Mhm.
meat suit, I like to call it, in this human experience. It doesn't matter how you dress up your meat suit, like it's not changing anything that's on the inside. On the
Right.
inside, that human design that you uniquely have on the inside is never changing, and it never needed to be changes.
Yeah.
It never needs to in the future to be changed. We
Yeah.
just need to turn inward and look at that and
Right.
stop worrying about all this external stuff and how that looks on the outside. It
Right.
doesn't matter.
I've heard
At
it
the
kind
end of
of,
this lifetime, are we going to care how we looked when we got there? No, we're going to care about the experience that we
and
had.
did
How
we
much
show
did we
up for
let ourselves
ourselves?
live fully? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was a analogy for human design. Like, people talk about it as being your blueprint for how your machine works. Like, sometimes
Right.
your machine is just a blender, and if you're trying to cook hot soup in a blender, it's not going to work very well, right? Like, if you're trying to wash clothes and like, no, you're just going to end up shredding them. So it's really like, what machine do I have, and how do I, and it's not quite as extreme as that, but it can be, because if we're trying to do the wrong thing for us, we're going to feel terrible and feel like we failed. Like, you
No,
can't teach a fish to climb a tree, right?
exactly. I was going to say, I
Yeah.
love that machine analogy too. And again, I'm sure we've all heard that analogy with the fish. Also, you can't teach a fish to climb a tree. Why would you need to? Why would you want to? Like, let the fish
That's
in the
not your
water and let a
spot.
fish be a fish. If you're a fish, let
Yeah.
yourself swim and be a fish. Stop trying to
Yeah.
climb that tree and
And
force
stop,
yourself to do
yeah. And
things
like
that you weren't
letting go
designed to
of,
do.
giving yourself permission to let go of the idea that you need to climb a tree.
and
That's,
stop watching the people that are climbing the tree, right? And
or watch
thinking,
them,
I
but
need
like,
to do what they can.
right, exactly. Absolutely watch them and support them, but like, that's not for me, and that's okay.
Exactly. Again, where we live in this world where, we're constantly being shown, like you must be a jack of all trades and be, gorgeous and have all the right things, all the right material things in your
Say
life,
all the
have
right
all of
things
these
all the
talents.
time.
You must be able to do all of the things, right? And just be super smart and talented and do everything. No, we're not all designed that way. We're all designed with our specific machines. And Nicole, you said it perfectly of like just learning to use and to love the machine that you've got and stop
Mhm.
comparing what you've got to the machines that other people have because
Yeah,
they're all designed differently and we're
right.
all meant to find and use and love what we've got to work with instead of feeling like we need to change and shift like, oh wait, let me just change out a few different parts here so I can make my machine more like that person's.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, what
Well,
you've got the perfect equipment already.
yeah.
And
And
the
it
work
and
that
it
like
just goes
Nicole
to
and I
show.
do is just to help find that, right? And
Yeah,
learn how to use it.
yeah. Well, and in order to run a household, you need more than one machine. So in order to run a community, you need all the different parts and pieces working together instead of trying to tear each other down or trying to tear yourself down. Like, we still need all of the different things in order to grow as a community and thrive.
Exactly. And man, that brings up a great point too, because also in this society, I feel that we are constantly, it's this like dog eat dog kind of world, we're so competitive and feeling
Yeah.
like you're what you were just describing of like, to run a household in this community, we need all of these different machines. And I feel like somewhere along the line, we can distort this idea of working together with others and using our different machines together. And often we think that, no, I need to do it myself. I'm just going to take the parts of their machines and I'm going to put it into my machine, right? And I'm going to figure out how to do it all by myself.
Yep.
And I'll perhaps tear those people down, like tear their machines apart in order to do it.
Mhm.
No, that's not it either. Again, it's not about changing anything you've got going on in the inside or stealing or taking away from what anybody else has. It's about embracing what you've got and finding peace and that love within yourself and bringing that forward, sharing that with the world, offering your machine to be shared with others so that it can, you know, work together with the collective
Mhm.
versus all of this like either destroying your own machine, trying to destroy others, and then nothing works, right?
Yeah.
As long as we're
Mhm.
doing that and tearing it all apart, then it's not functioning. But if we can show up fully and love the machine that we've got and offer that to the world exactly as it is, I mean, that's
Yeah.
really the best thing that we can do.
Yeah,
But it
and it's,
takes a lot of work to get there to love and really understand your own
yeah,
machine, right?
yeah.
Because it
Well,
is a
and not
complicated one.
everybody is meant to share their machine in the same way. You have to do it in a way that feels
Mhm.
good for you, right? It's not about like, oh, you're this type of thing. You have to go and do this in the world. Like, no, you still don't have to unless it feels good for you. If it brings you joy,
Exactly.
absolutely. And that goes back to the human design thing. Like, generators and manifesting generators are meant to find the things that light them up and do that. And I mean, everybody is, but especially generators. Otherwise, their life force energy from their sacral center is going to burn out fast. If or like
Mhm.
but yeah, if you're not doing something that lights you up, you're going to experience burnout no matter what. If you're not resting when you need to rest, you're going to experience burnout. Like,
I
there's
am
a
a
lot of different
prime
things.
example of that in my last phase of life for sure as a
Yeah.
generator. I absolutely did burn myself out. So isn't that interesting, how that works out? And like now, like learning more about that and understanding, these qualities of a generator. I'm like, oh wow. It's suddenly, it brings so much sense, just like no matter what point in life you are when you first, look into your human design, like it gave me so much understanding of why I've acted the way I have my entire life up until this point. It's
Yeah.
suddenly like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. And instead of old patterns of like wanting to beat myself up for past mistakes and why did I do that? Why did I think this way? Like, how stupid. Why did I do these things?
Mhm.
Now I suddenly have like all this compassion and understanding of like, oh, yeah, because I was trying to make my machine do a different thing than it was designed to do.
Yep.
I was trying to make it operate in a completely different environment than it was designed to be in, to perform different tasks than I was meant to in ways like way out of my natural comfort zone. And now that I stepped out of that and I've like taken the time to reflect and really understand my human design and my nature and how I work,
Mhm.
wow, suddenly how much easier it got now that I made peace with my design instead of trying to force it to fit in a different mold and work in ways that it was never meant to.
Right.
But
You
man,
know yourself
was that
down.
a long, painful struggle until, you know, I got to that place. And if you're out there and you're struggling and wondering, like, I feel like I'm like burning my, or spinning my wheels and burning myself out. Like, why isn't this working? I've put so much effort into like doing self-care or into creating the career that I want, creating the life that I want, and it's just not working. Perhaps looking into your human design might be worthwhile and understanding perhaps just the way you're going about it and the
Yeah.
way you're trying to use your natural made machine
Yeah.
just may not be quite the right way designed for you.
Yeah. Well, and the perfect example of that is I think we're all conditioned that we need to be manifestors, but also generators, but also projectors, but also reflectors. Like, no, we can't be all the things. And like manifestors are the ones who are meant to go out there and basically insert themselves and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. I need help, you know, building this because I'm not going to have the energy to do it all myself. And it's a very like, it's a, what is it called? Do I have it up on my wall? No, I don't. It's a very repelling aura, and you're meant to repel the people that are not meant for you. And that's something that we're so conditioned to believe that in the, especially in the people pleasing aspect of things, like, oh, they don't like me. That's not okay. I need to change who I am. But manifestors are supposed to go out there and say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. Like, who's with me? And we're not all meant to do that. And if the rest of the types do that, it's not going to work out. Like for me as a projector, trying to be taught how to be a manifester never felt good for me because as a projector, I'm literally meant to wait for an invitation. Like I have all kinds of advice for everybody, but until I'm invited in to give that advice, it's not going to be received well. And like I have a perfect example of a past job that I had. I went in and I'm like, oh, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And they were basically like, please shut up. Like, we don't want your opinion on what's going on. And my life became terrible because I was trying to insert myself where I needed an invitation. And like reflectors are
Interesting.
meant to take time to make decisions, and like they literally are supposed to wait a 28-day lunar cycle in order to make decisions that feel good for them because they don't have any inner authority. They're completely open to the environment around them, so you have to wait for the whole moon cycle to figure out, like, does this really feel good
Interesting.
with me? And
I know
generators,
some reflectors. That's a great one. Okay, but
yeah,
me being a generator, I want to hear
right.
this.
And you're like, yeah, generators are meant to respond to the environment that's around them. So you're meant to do the law of attraction sort of things, and your aura is very much more attractive, and you have to just respond to what's there. You're not meant to go out there and say, this is what needs to happen. You're meant to say like, oh, I noticed that this is going on. Let me go do something about that. Like you don't have to wait for a formal
Be very
invitation.
in the moment. Oh, isn't
Right.
that so funny? That's definitely, again, just a living example as a generator. Anybody, any generators out there listening, or maybe you'll find out, maybe pause the video and go look up your human design real quick and then come back and like,
Yeah,
okay,
of
this will make so much more sense. But man, did I used to try to push and like plan and like, this is what's happening. Yep.
course.
Yeah, I definitely was very forceful, thinking, you know, living as a single mother and like working full time. And gosh, even before that, getting through the college days, like I was very strict to a routine and felt like I had to plan. And isn't it funny that my life, like, it completely unfolded and it's like the universe kept challenging me more and more. Let go of control, stop trying to plan, because
Yeah.
you are meant to live in this moment. You deal with what's happening right here, right now,
Yep.
and you do that very well. But the more you try to project and plan out into the future, the more troubles you make for yourself.
Nope.
So the more I've been able to embrace that and accept just being present in this moment, taking it moment by moment and just living, being right here. Stop trying to plan, stop trying to control the future, let it go. As tough as that can be, I always, you know, come, thank goodness, come back to my spiritual practice, come back to my yoga practice to anchor me back into this present moment. Like, this
Yeah.
is where I was designed to be the most, efficient, and like to like create the most success, I guess, for myself, in this moment. That's where I thrive. So just finding how you work, isn't that interesting, of all of those
Yeah.
different types? I'll handle different situations differently. So again, of course, you couldn't be like this person and that person and try to do all of the things at once, because you were designed a specific way, in a
Mhm.
specific, beautiful way. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. There's
Yeah.
nothing to change about it. All there
Yeah.
is to acknowledge, to embrace, and to learn again how to use the machine that you were given.
Yeah. Well, and
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing broken, right?
no.
It's just about understanding how it works.
And it was always my natural tendency too. Like looking back on it, I was always the shy kid that would come out of her
Mm.
shell once she was invited to do things. Like I
Yes.
never wanted to go up to people. And I like kids know so much about who they are, and then they're taught not to be that way. But like I was
So true.
always like, I'm going to sit over in the corner until somebody invites me to play this game with them. I'm never going to go insert myself. And when I do, people don't like it. And that's why I don't do that. Right. Like kids understand energy a lot more than we give them credit for. And we also teach them
So true.
not to use it in the way that it's meant to be used, which is the real tragedy. But
It is. Oh my gosh, we could spin down on that topic for
oh my
quite a
God.
while, right? On the conditioning, right?
Yeah.
And like returning to that ultimately, gosh, and as an intuitive guide in my coaching programs, it's all about kind of like unlearning all of that
Mhm.
conditioning, right? And like returning to that natural state as we were as children. Before we were conditioned and told that, oh, you need to all of these things that you naturally are. Oh, nope, you need to stuff that back in and change that and hide that, and can fit in this
Mhm.
box, to keep society comfortable and do all of these things. And
Right.
no, 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 we got to unlearn all of that and get back
Yeah.
to our true nature, to
Yeah.
that human design, back to your true self, your highest self, to
Mhm.
that light that shines within. We can insert all kinds of words, whatever resonates best with you. But it's all about just turning back inward and loving exactly how you were made, because that was perfect. Stop trying to change it. You're only like running into frustration and like burning yourself out because you're
Yep.
trying so hard to change it. Trust me,
Yeah.
I was that person. I
Yep.
spent
Me too.
a decade running myself ragged, trying to change who I was and be, what I thought
Yeah. Well,
society
and
and my
luckily yours
peers,
was
my
only
family
a
wanted to
decade.
be. Exactly. I mean, how many people spend an entire lifetime and not until they're laying on their deathbed do they realize,
I should have done it differently.
I wish I showed up differently for myself. I wish I would have let me be me. If there's, the great, the questions of the universe, right? Why are we here? What is the purpose of life? And really, we may never know the exact
Mhm.
truth to that answer, but ultimately, I feel that it comes down to living our truth, right? To discovering who we are, to discovering how our human design was meant to work, and
Mhm.
learning how to work with that. How can I honor and love my most authentic truth? And how can I share that with the world?
Mhm.
And that's the work that we do, right? Like, that's why we were both guided to be coaches, because once we discovered that in ourselves, don't you feel like there's nothing else we could possibly do but help other people find that
Yeah.
for themselves?
For me, that's true for sure. Yeah, and that's not true of everybody else, and it's not meant to be true
No.
for everybody else. But like, yeah, I've had several instances where when I start talking about what I'm doing with people, I've had comments about like, wow, you're really passionate about this. I'm like, yep. Like, wow, it really sounds like you found your calling. I'm like, I absolutely have. I don't know what the end result looks like yet, but I know that I'm on the right path. And I haven't felt that way
On the path.
before in my life.
Same here, same here. And like feeling that passion of just like wanting to shine that light. Like, I found the light, I found some light that I'm following. And it feels
Mhm.
really good marching down that path. I feel connected to my true self. I'm honoring the way I was designed. I'm no longer trying to change me. I'm just trying to love it more and to express my truth more. And we shine that light so that others can find that light too and start loving themselves. It's like passing the torch. So perhaps, I mean, anybody listening, that if any of this resonates with you, if you're curious about learning more about human design, I'm telling you, Nicole is your girl. And perhaps even just getting more in touch with yourself. I know I tend to, all of my clients, we really focus on like the spiritual wellness, you
Mhm.
know, um, and finding that like that's a step of it too, on the spiritual side of ourselves, of trying to get back in touch with that inner light within, of getting in touch with your own intuition and your highest self, your connection with the divine, what have you. And I love how in a way like it is very connected with this human design concept too.
Mhm.
It's just about getting back in touch with like who you naturally are on the inside, and finding that all the validation you've been seeking externally has been within you this entire time. So I think in different ways, the work that both Nicole and I do is all about redirecting you back to that light and helping you
Mhm.
find the answers that you've been holding within you this entire time. So if you've been feeling called, maybe you've been feeling lost and unsure of what steps to take, and just feeling like something's not right here. I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with how I'm feeling about myself and how I've been trying to change myself through this life, but I'm not sure how to even begin turning inward. Then send us a message.
Mhm.
You're drawn to the people you're meant to in life, who resonates with you. You're drawn to them for a reason. So just trust it. If you even just like seeing the screen, you're like, oh my gosh, Nicole, everything she's been saying, it feels really good. Reach out to her. If you feel that way about me, reach out to me. Like, that's the beauty of this. There's not enough coaches in the world out there, with enough styles to resonate with everyone.
Yeah.
There's 7 billion people on this planet. We all are designed in different ways, and we all connect with each other in different ways. So when you find those people that, just the way they speak, the words they say are really resonating with you, reach out. Don't
Mhm.
hesitate. It's never too late to start fresh,
Yeah.
to change the mindset, to return to yourself. It's never, ever, ever too late. Not
Yeah.
until you're resting on that deathbed. And my God, my friends, don't wait until that point. Right now is always the perfect time to start making that change, to let go of the external expectations, the people pleasing, the trying to be what other people expect you to be. It's time to
Mhm.
return to you. And now is that perfect time. So
Well said.
stay tuned for more conversations. I love this. Nicole and I,
Yeah.
just as coaching peers, we love to connect. And we do it before we even start recording. We do a lot of
Yeah.
coaching with each other, helping each other through our own things and how we're building our businesses. Like, how can we reach out to more people? And we realize, like, in having these interesting discussions, we're like, oh my gosh, we need to record this. Because,
Yeah.
if we're
And then we always hit
finding
record just a little
value in
bit
the
too late,
things
but
that come up within us, oh my gosh, better late than never, right? You always
yep.
capture what we need,
Yeah.
what's meant
Like,
to be shared. And if
yeah.
you appreciate any of this, comment and share, and stay tuned for more fun, kind of spontaneous conversations with Nicole and I. Just keeping it real. We're
Mhm.
keeping it real. Is that what we need to call this? Let's keep it real. Get
Right.
back to get back to ourselves, back in touch with our nature, back in our human design. Let's stop trying to change and be something that we are not. Let's love ourselves and keep it real.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about here. Just being in the safe space. Show up as you. It doesn't matter. Again, makeup, no makeup, whether or not you're showered or unshowered. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or how you physically, present and show yourself to the world. It's how it all is on the inside. And my goodness, my friends, today, I hope you let that light shine and let it shine bright. Be proud of who you are and how you're naturally designed. Because I promise you, it is so perfect and nothing needs to be changed. Only the mindset around it, right? And recognizing how perfect it truly is. So feel free to reach out to Nicole and I anytime. Stay tuned for more of these fun videos and discussions. And if there's anything specific you'd like to hear, that you'd like to talk about, add it to the comments. We're happy to talk about it.
Mhm.
It's an open book here. There is
Mhm.
nothing really off limits. So let's talk about it, especially the uncomfortable things, right? The things that nobody wants to talk about. That's what we need to talk about the most. So with that, until next time, stay tuned, my friends. Love yourselves. Check out Human Design. Message Nicole if you have any questions about that specifically. And honor yourself. Honor that beautiful machine that you've got going on right now. There's nothing broken. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. There's only love and compassion, right? And just honoring, embracing. Be proud of who you are. You're perfect. And thank you so much, Nicole. I love these conversations and discussions. I can't wait to find out what comes up next.
Yes.
All right, take care, everybody.